He's been gone for nearly as long as he was alive, and we can see now what does that look like when he makes that reunion. He's captured, he's hunted, and has to survive until he earns the respect of another tribe. He's welcomed but not trusted, or he's a curiosity that many Slither want to meet. Let's see here. All right. So it looks like he spent some time then in captivity with the Slithers. They didn't like necessarily that he had spent so much time with humans, whether that was, up to him or not. All right, so let's add on here. Upon returning to the upon returning to the Expanse, he found other tribes hostile toward him and was captured, and spent some time in captivity until he re-earned their trust once more. All right. What do you think would be some of the ways that he might earn their trust? Would he ever be a violent character? Like, might he help them in their rivalry with another tribe? Or do you think he earned their trust simply through, being kind of smart? He's learned some knowledge from the humans and just knows some things, some tricks that the others don't. That would be another option. Okay, sure. Forget what we had learned last time about Slithers and magicians. Yes, they're less likely to be born with it. Okay, yeah, I like that idea. Let's roll that, because especially with him being a this is for Lives of Gethra. Especially with him being a religious figure, that would certainly factor in. Is Hugh Basques a magician? So we gave Nayar a 1 in 8 odds. So I think we're gonna have to give that even lower odds this time. But I'm not gonna make it crazy. I don't think that 1 in 10 Slithers can perform magic, because it does sound like it's quite rare. But it's not unlikely that someone who is a religious figurehead would be able to perform some miracles. So I think that it's a little bit more likely, just because we've already decided his impact on history is this. So I think we'll keep it as 1 in 10 here, not magic. All right, here we go. 3. So he does not have magic. But I think he would know a lot more about people. He's seen different types of people than many of the Slithers have ever seen. So he might have more of a read on how people are likely to act. And all right. Okay, yeah. the tribe that captured him was likely from deeper into in the desert, and was not open to trade with humans. Despite his captivity, he managed to convince them it could be in their best interest. After testing the waters and realizing many of the luxuries they could trade for, the tribe began to trust he who basks once more. All right, looks good. Let's randomize how long that took as well. We can add that onto his timeline here. Coffee. Yes, could be coffee. I forget. We'll have to see coming up in Vaynuth's storyline. It's been so long since I've read them all because I wrote them this was like 5 years ago now or something. But in Vaynuth's storyline, they're setting off into the desert right now, and there will be some encounters with slithers coming up, and yeah, I forget it because I know Vaynuth loves coffee, so I'm curious if she shares that with them at all or not. I can't remember. I know that there's something that they trade that is kind of just an enjoyable commodity, not a necessary one. And it's kind of interesting because the slithers don't seem like they would be into that, but they live out in the desert, so something nice is still nice. Here, we'll even add such as coffee. I think that's awesome. All right, let's check here. How long did it take How long did it take for him to convince them of this? I think it would only be, 1 year, maybe up to 6. I don't think it would be very high. Oh, and I rolled the 6. Hugh Basks is getting up there in age. Oops. He who basks earns the trust of the tribe that captured him. It's weird, it's very specific about the hyphens, but that's okay. And this should be 6 years after 688, so it is 674. Or 694. Wow. Huber. All right, so he's now 60 at this point. I was hoping we might have some more people drop in, but it doesn't. It looks like a slower night for the stream tonight. Apparently, my peak hours are 5 a.m. No, I don't mind. I'd be working on this stuff anyway, even if I wasn't on a stream. All right, let's take a look at how this looks. It's been a little bit since I looked at it. I gotta add in some paragraph breaks here, though. That's a big block of text. I thought it would do it here automatically, but we need take a look here. Oh, interesting. You don't need the close break. It's been a long time since I've done anything like HTML or anything like that. That's better. I think that's a little bit what Babacus did with He Who Basks. He looked at the wiki and found somewhere that there wasn't a lot of stories about it because the Slither side I didn't know what their religion was like yet. So that's a great contribution. Cool. What's your do you want to add that onto your character, Aemon Ishtar? You can add that onto Ao or Aeon, sorry. I don't know a lot, no. Yep. I see. That's quite an interesting direction for him. All right, I think let's figure out, guys, what's a big world event that will happen within the historical period of 700 to 800, and then we can see if that will influence any of the characters in any way, or if they'll help resolve it. What is something big that happens during 700 to 800? A war? Plague? A little too familiar these days. You guys have any other ideas of things we can add on of things that happened? Perhaps a revolution of some kind? The formation of a new empire? Oh yeah, technological revolution would be cool. We'll have to get creative with what technologies exist at this time period. That one comes up. Let's see. Let me think. Oh, how about a religious reformation? Well, we already know there's a slight one happening with the Slither religion, but... Oh, nice. I do have some lists and resources like that too, but it's kind of fun to come up with things, on the fly as we work. But by all means, if you have anything else you want to add on here, let me know. If there's anyone new here on the stream, I'm not sure. But I'm Nick. I'm running the Knaves Guild here. We're doing some collaborative or contributing world building for a setting that you guys could use in your own games. I will be kind of setting some of my stories in it. I've got some books and stuff like that of different stories that I've written over the years with this same setting in mind. And it's it's interactive. So if you're new here and you want to just say hi, always can help out. Printing press. I think we'll leave that in the category of technological revolution, so we can come back to that if we need. If we roll that option. So here, let's just roll these 6 and see what we come up with. All right, 3, a revolution. What land undergoes a revolution? Yes, I'm sure it would. I think that at this point in Gethra history, there's still some forms of print production, whether it's to the level of bookbinding, I don't know. But by 1478, which is where the story is set now, there is certainly books with paper and stuff like that, and parchment. So it might be that during this time people were using scrolls more than anything else. So it could be something along the lines of a printing press, but it certainly wouldn't be, Aeon Isitar wouldn't have any lack of record keeping. It's not like he's trying to keep track of everything in his mind or with memorization. All right, so what land undergoes a revolution? Well, we have a few different empires that we can look at here. So let's take a look at our map. There's also, I think, just pardon me for a minute, guys. I'm going to delve deeper into the Gethra archives, because there is another empire, which I don't have on the map here right now, that used to exist here and no longer does in the 1470s. But they might be around during this period, so would be worth looking into. So let me just give me a moment here. I can show you this. The East Storm Company. It is a kingdom, maybe? Kingdom of Draligar. About 400 years earlier. So is when they fell. So they certainly might have been around. So let's add that in as an option. So Draligar, which is part of East Radrigar, it sounds like. The deep dives on Gethra in Gethra lore. All right, so we're not on here. Oh no, we're just looking for the randomizer. So, now I should have left that open because I need the spelling. Would be nice to pull off, to have a black book full of secrets that is written in a non-existing language because it's encoded. Yeah, I think that would be a cool detail. We can add that on for Aeon Isitar. He could keep his notes in a code. Where he kept many of his records encoded with a secret cipher of his own design. There we go. All right. So back over to our randomizer of where there might be a revolution. We also have, let's see, there's Draligar. We also have some local city-states. So we could put Radaran Highlands, Torren Shore, Varnordos perhaps. It's Varnordos, like I was saying on one of the previous streams, had a whole empire that began to fall or fell when the Orish meteor impacted this world, and so they are they've been an empire in various forms ever since, but in diminished forms. So there might be some sort of revolution there. There could be a revolution in Numenacris. We know that it's often kind of its own little country, just in different forms of governments. And lastly, it could be along the Elder Coast. So I think where it would be more likely, well, we know that this kingdom falls within the next few hundred years. So it could be that there's a lot of tension in that land. And I think there would be a lot of restructuring periodically in Varnordos. And Numenacris eventually becomes an empire under the Eternal Emperor, but we don't know, what was Numenacris like before that. So let's keep that one a little more likely too. Yeah, so that was King. There's a few different A names and I keep mixing them up. So Asharo, King Asharo. Yeah, he is in the out there on Kadar Port, on Kadar Isle, which would have it could have its own little revolution, but it would be somewhat small scale, I think. Yeah. I think it would just be unlikely that it would spill over into anywhere else, especially because even these adjacent isles are so independent from Kadar Port as well. Yeah, so I think maybe we'll leave that one off for now. But we don't know, I mean, unless the revolution happens all the way over in Numenacris. If it happens over here or on this part of Raudrgar, it could be that does affect, that could then affect King Asharo instead of vice versa, All right, so let's roll the dice here for these guys. Here we go. 2 in the Radaran Highlands. Well, I've chosen the one location that is as far away from everyone as possible. So the Radaran Highlands is this big group of villages and towns and cities right in the middle here. There's some major rivers that access both coasts there, and there's a range of hills that are rich with minerals, which is why there's so many people or so much potential business to be had there. So I guess we'll need to figure out a little bit more about that, about what this land is like during this time in history, and then we can see how that will affect things. It looks like Aeon Isitar is going to be the closest of our kind of perspective characters in this setting to that, and then next up would probably be King Asharo. Don't know why I'm struggling so much with that particular name when there's so many other names. And then Lord Nayar would also be important there if Calor 7 comes back around. We'll have to see. But let's figure out a little bit more about this area. So let's make a page for Ith, which is one of the cities there. This would be a settlement. Ith. Yes, exactly. He could certainly have a large effect on how things play out, I think. During a revolution, I think information is very important. Sorry, so I want to copy a location page. Establish unknown current sovereignty. I'm going to put unknown here until we finish reading Lives of Gethra to the point that we do know. But in our history section here, we'll talk about what is the current government now. Just give me 1 second here, guys. All right, so let's figure out then what is the government of Ith during this period. This Ith is one of the larger cities in this region, and in 1478, due to other cities, sometimes going through a decline in some ways and stuff like this, Itha is actually the largest city in the known world during that period, which is fairly unusual because it's so far inland. But it's also just a place that's so central to everything else. And keep in mind that most of this is jungle, which makes travel inland very hard. But there's something called the Crimson Highway, which is maintained at great expense by a separate faction. But because it interlinks all these places, Ith has just become a hub in the center of it all. It's the only place, one of the only places that all roads lead in this land because of the climate and the jungle. So what is the government of Ith during this period? Well, we know that later on they are eventually ruled by a council of very powerful magicians. So maybe that's something that is put in motion by this event. We're not sure. But let's not have that be the current government for now. And instead, we'll say there could be a monarch, a senate, competing aristocracy. So rather than a single leader, there's kind of like some wealthy bloodlines that are competing. That's probably not the aristocracy. There you go. Let's see. It could also be a religious order. Oh, it looks like it's currently ruled by a religious order. So this revolution is a little bit of a reformation as well, it sounds like. Alrighty. Well, it looks like it would be steps like this during our world building. It would be nice to have, like later on, if we continue with the stream and have even more people involved, we could do things like a poll here and say, well, should the religious order be like this or like this, and run a little poll. But for now, I think we'll just kind of roll with your guys' input still. So if you guys want to help me come up with a new religion in this region, we can add that in. Prior to, yes, of course, Emma and Ishtar always thinking about the power play for his character. Alright, prior to a year, which we will determine, it was ruled by a religious order. Alright, so we'll say that this religion was, let's see, what do we not have a lot of in Gethra yet?